19 years in the NBA, three-time NBA Sixth Man of the Year. Only couple players in league history that have done that, and Jamal is joining us today. First of all, how are you and how is your family right now?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing out there?
We're doing great. So far, we're safe. Is your extended family okay, Jamal?
Yeah, everybody's safe. My wife has everything dialed in, with the online school and everything. That took an adjustment period the first couple of days, but we have it dialed in where we have recess and everything now, and everybody's staying home. So we're good.
That's good. So, Jamal, well, first of all, let's start with the easy one. What's your big takeaway in the Jordan documentary?
I'm really, really happy that a lot of the younger generation, who saw highlights and saw, all the shoe sales and everything like that, they get a chance to see what makes them tick. And the competitive fire and always striving for excellence, always taking something somebody says he can't do and turn it into one of his strengths. So I'm glad that we kind of pulled back the curtain. Obviously, I knew how competitive he was and is, but to see it in that way, it's been a joy to see.
Yeah, I would imagine, this is my guess, you've got a reputation as a smart dude and kind of a thinking man's player. Executives like you, I'm sure now that you could get an executive job if you wanted one. So my guess is your first 4 years in Chicago, you played with Michael. I would guess you and Michael got along well.
We got along great. Actually, my dad told me that he liked my game when I was going through the draft process. And I'm like, Dad, you're right. This is before social media. I'm like, there's no way, right? And then come to find out, I get drafted by the Bulls. Tim Grover calls me one morning, like I said on your show before. Hey, come down here. Michael says you could meet him. I go meet him at 7 in the morning. Michael's been there since 6 working out. And from that point on, he was like, hey, you can start working out with me this summer. So from that point on, the next 2 summers, we played together in pickup and never lost a game.
I got to be honest. That's for Mike to invite you in. He didn't do that for everybody. What do you think beyond your game? Why did you click?
I think love of the game. I think he saw talent there, probably a raw talent, and the size, obviously, being a tall I was a point guard at the time, being tall and point guard, the skill set was there. But I was really, really raw, and I think he just, saw some of that. It was amazing because when we got so tight, he actually picked me to be in the commercial with him when he was doing 39 versus 23, a Gatorade commercial. And so it was just like an unbelievable friendship that still exists to this day.
Jamal, one of the things that jumped out to me in this documentary, I've been blown away by his parents.
Absolutely.
Just floored by both. I'm going to make the argument that they're more important than we think in this thing, that his refinement and his polish, I think parents matter. Did he discuss them a lot? Did you sense he had a great support system early?
I did sense that, and you could see it. It's kind of being pulled back in this doc. And I said that last night on Twitter. I'm like, the underrated part of this doc is his parents and the core values they instilled in him and his sisters and brothers, right? Like the way he's very respectful, from doing his own laundry and just the way he treats people. And I've seen the non-competitive side as well. When he's joking around, he's just having a good time. And, I'm glad everybody is seeing that. But the parents did an unbelievable job. Even to this day, if you look at it, his mom still calls his dad Mr. Jordan, right? So that the respect level is always there, and I'm sure they instilled that in their kids early.
19 years in the NBA. Do you notice that a lot among players? Better parents, stronger parents? You don't see that a lot.
Well, yeah, you see the difference. I'm sorry to let you finish the question. I see that. You can tell how people were raised, their morals, just small things. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, please. Thank you. You're welcome. Just small things you can see, not necessarily as a reflection of the parents, because some people could have been raised the right way and chose to kind of do what they want to do, but you can see their upbringing and see their roots, see how people, who they have around, at this level. Like a guy like Devin Booker, his dad's always around. His parents were always around. Same thing with a Blake Griffin or Chris Paul or DeAndre Jordan or J.J. Redick. They always have their parents around in games, and it's really reflective of those players.
It's very easy. Everybody wants to be a star, but I don't think sometimes we understand that there's a lot of pressures, and you were around Michael enough to see it was almost Elvis-like. It's probably what Pele was like in Brazil. Was there ever a time, and you may have confided this to your family or your parents, that, man, this is overwhelming. How does this guy, because I watched this doc and I'm like, he's like Elvis with a basketball. people are camping out to get a picture of him. Was there a moment, an epiphany when you saw it for the first time and you just realized Michael was different than even other great stars?
There was a moment, you know what? There was a moment where we left the gym and he was walking across the street to a restaurant. No security or nothing at that moment. And he walked across the street and I was behind him and people were driving down the street, honking their horns, like literally screeching their brakes, and it was just like unbelievable. And I said to myself, like, Michael Jordan literally is just walking across the street by himself at this very moment. Like you can tell he didn't do that often, but he wanted to do it. He wanted to have some normalcy in some ways where he could just walk down the street, and he wasn't walking very far. He's really walking across a lot, but it was just him, and I was just like, wow. And the people were, in that 5 seconds, 10 seconds, people were almost crashing just to see him. So it was unbelievable. Jamal
Crawford joining us. It's been interesting to watch the often antagonistic relationship between Jerry Krause and Michael. And maybe it wasn't that way with all players. Did you get along with Jerry Krause?
I did. He actually drafted me. I spent a lot of time in his office picking his brain, asking him questions about the old teams and things of that nature, the future of basketball, just different things. I was in his office a lot. And he knew his stuff. He really did. And very competitive, very, very competitive. I remember that summer, I think I was drafted in 2000. The summer, that summer, I think Grant Hill, Tim Duncan, and I believe Tracy McGrady were free agents. And he really wholeheartedly believed we were going to get all three of them. He was like, yeah, we're going to get all three of them. No, he believed it. He was like, we're going to get all three of them, and we're going to get things back rolling here. We had a down year the year before. I think it was 99 with Elton Brand, Ron Artest at the time. And he's like, we're going to get things back rolling. And he really believed it. So he was that competitive.
In some of these practices, it doesn't bother me. And I think if you've ever been an athlete or athletic, I'm a workout guy and I played on sports. So I look at it and I think, I had coaches. I had a high school coach break a clipboard on my knee. He was so angry with me. So it's just part of sports. I don't think anything of it. Was there ever a moment in practice that even you as an athlete with Michael thought, ooh, man, this is rough?
Well, there was a moment. Are you saying as far as watching the doc?
Yeah, like when even the doc, or when you were in a practice or you were around Michael and you saw how intense he was, that you were like concerned, man, he is hard on players.
Well, not that way. I saw him in a different way, right? So I came down to play because at that time you had to work out with your team, and then you can go play, right? As a young player, you got to work in the facility. So I worked out at the Bulls facility. I drive downtown to see him, and they already had played. I got there a little late, and he lost. And he was in the corner fuming, fuming. I mean, nobody would go say anything to him. He wanted his space. He was in the corner, and he just was distraught. And it was like a summer session, right? We're just really just playing pickup basketball, and he lost that game, and he was sick to his stomach. And after that, I never seen him lose again.
Wow.
Yeah.
By the way, they always say, great baseball hitters, Jamal Crawford joining us, that even a great baseball hitter, although I would argue Tony Gwynn there was not an out pitch for Tony Gwynn, but great baseball hitters, there's always a baseball-sized hole in the swing, and it's your job to find it. If there was a way to defend Michael, was there a little hole somewhere that you had a fighting chance against him?
That's tough. I really think about it, Colin. As soon as he figured out how to get through the Pistons, he never lost the finals again. He never lost again besides the time when he came back to Orlando and they lost in the playoffs. But remember, the next year they went and swept Orlando. So he never lost again. Once he figured it out, that was really it. And he looked for anything. He literally looked for anything. It could be a writer that you've never heard of. It can be a player that's on the end of the bench that said something, or maybe they didn't say something, but he made it himself believe that, and he just went off. So once he figured it out, he was playing a whole different game. There was nothing you could do to stop him.
Yeah, I asked Tim Grover, I said, Tim, there are people that don't require sleep. I've played golf with guys who could play all night in a hangover. They could play in the heat, and I'm like, I'm going to get sick. Well, is there ever been another athlete in your 19 years in the league that had the ability to just work out, game, lift, work out, sleep very little? Because I do think genetics and God's gift, he does touch a handful of athletes. Has there ever been anybody close to Michael in terms of his relentless workout and his ability to just, 16 hours a day of movement?
I can't think of one. And if one comes to mind, it would have to be Kobe. Just because you hear this, I never played with Kobe, but getting a chance to know him and hearing all the stories, it sounds very similar. So he would be the only person that I could think of, even reading his book. He's like, I want to work out so much, and I want to be there for my family, so I'll sacrifice sleep. And that's what Kobe said. So I'm sure he took a page out of Jordan's book there, but I've never seen anything like it. Michael is he's a competitive psychopath. Like, he's literally so competitive, and he'll rip your heart out, and he takes joy in doing that. Like, he doesn't just want to beat you. He wants to demoralize you on the court, and that drove him.
Yeah, Jamal Crawford. So are you officially finished your career?
No, I would love to play again, but obviously the opportunity hasn't come about these last 8 months, which was pretty shocking for me. But, I'm not bitter about anything. I just take it one day at a time and hope for the best, and hopefully something opens up. I'll be ready if and when that happens.
Jamal Crawford. By the way, when you've been in this league 19 years, okay, now I'm going to ask you a weird Colin question. You ready?
Go for it.
2 restaurants in the NBA. This is such a random question. You got 2 places in the NBA. If I said, Jamal, 19 years of road trips, you get 2 places to eat in the NBA you've eaten at. What are your 2 favorites?
New York and Chicago.
Is there a restaurant?
New York, it was Tao.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love Tao in New York. In Chicago,
good food city. Good.
Yeah, you're right. That's a tough one. I can't think of one right now, but just they had great food. So any one place there.
Sacramento didn't make the list, huh?
They have some good food, too, but they weren't my top 2.
Jamal Crawford. Hey, best of your family. You're a credit to the game, and I don't know if you're going to broadcast or hang out or be an executive, but you could do all of them, and it's a pleasure to have you on. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.